Philadelphia Eagles select Marcus Smith, linebacker.
Being the 26th pick in the whole world, that comes with a cost. I wanted to end my life so I could end the pain.
Why'd you decide to be so candid in sharing this information?
God gave me a second chance. He gave me a second chance to do what I'm doing now.
Today on The Pulse, a very real conversation with former Eagles first-round pick, Marcus Smith. Guys, welcome to The Pulse. As you know, every week we explore all sorts of topics, bringing in people who are doing amazing things, entertaining, to helping people, athletes, you name it. And today we have somebody who I wanted to talk to for a lot of reasons. I'm a Eagles fan, and he played for the Eagles, but also doing really significant, impactful things with his life. So Marcus Smith joins us today. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You played in Philadelphia, so by nature of playing for the Eagles, people just follow your career. But I started following it more as I saw a lot of the things that you were talking about and involved in. Take us back. Let's start with your background. Football was what, from a childhood?
I started playing football, I was about 5 years old, and I kind of grew to love the game. I used to be on the couch with my father actually watching Monday Night Football. So that's kind of where my love grew, just playing football. And over time, like playing from 5 all the way to high school, like I played quarterback. That was my thing. And my dad, he allowed me to play that position. He coached me all the way up until I got to high school. Okay. And so that's kind of where my love started. At the end of the day, like once I got to college, it started to grow even the more as I got better, as I started to kind of like come into my own person and actually as a good player. Mm-hmm. And that's when the NFL started to come into my vision. My dream was to play in the NFL, and it happened.
How long was it just fun? Was there a point where it stopped?
I would say all the way through college it was fun, but like because you don't have those stresses, when you're playing at college, obviously you got to go to a class and things of that nature. But it's still just fun because you're not worried about your job, right? You could just kind of like play freely, and that's the same thing when you're young. You're playing Pop Warner, same thing in high school. You can kind of just play and be free and not really worry about your job. You don't have a family to protect. You don't have, really outside noise to attend to with the sport. But like once you get into the NFL, now there's a need to perform. There's a need to make sure you make your coaches proud. There's a need to try to extend your career by your play. So I think that's when the love, I wouldn't say love stopped, but that's when it turned into what we call a business, and having to just differentiate the business and the love, that can get tough.
People forget you're 19, 20, 21 years old. Like,
yeah.
How old were you when you got drafted?
I think I was 21, 22. So I was fresh out of college. I was drafted, and then I had to come and do the press conference. And then right after the press conference, I had to fly back to Louisville and graduate. So I flew back to graduate. I was actually finishing school while I was training for the draft. So I was in school still, and then I had to get right back on a plane and come back and get ready for minicamp. I didn't really even have time to, kind of be with my family and like go over like what the plan was. And, it was just like bam, 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 I'm here now and this is it. Like this is my dream, right?
We're on the outside. We watch, and I remember, we watch you get drafted.
Right.
As Eagles fans, it was a surprise pick. For the Eagles. A lot of people kind of like, okay.
Who is this guy?
There was some who is this guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think one thing about the Eagles fans, they're really passionate, so they want you to do well.
Right.
But the who is this guy was something that was out there. You get signing bonuses. You're to the outside world, you're living a dream.
Yeah.
Like, this guy got the dream. You're on paper. You're a millionaire now,
right?
At 21 years old. Why wasn't that a dream?
I reached my goal of getting drafted and being the 26th pick in the whole world. That comes with a cost. And for me, I didn't realize that cost because I was the first one in my family to actually make it that far. So it wasn't really anybody that I had to be able to go to and say, okay, what do I need to expect? And what is my next step? And how do I need to approach this, right? I could only kind of like tend to myself and actually go through it myself. So having the money and having everything there, yes, it solidifies, what you can do, with your family, but it didn't change anything as far as like how I was feeling and what I was going through. And obviously, growing up and going into college, I was dealing with anxiety and depression, right? And not realizing that I was actually dealing with those things. You go into a sport where you never address certain issues, and now you're getting bombarded with, everything else that the sport comes with. And I couldn't talk to my father about it because to him, it was like you made it to your dream. You got to suck it up and you got to keep going because that's what, we've been taught, like especially from the communities we come from.
Right. That's what black men do. You
right.
don't feel that kind of stuff. You just keep going.
We don't realize that that's kind of like slowly killing us. That's slowly killing us because we're not actually addressing what we're dealing with. We're just pushing it to the back of our brains and just hoping that it goes away. And it really doesn't. And, it's important for us to push it out to the front and actually talk about it because that's how you free yourself. That's how you help yourself get better. And I didn't know that at the time. And that's why, it was like got drafted, got the money. Okay, I'm here now. And I struggled. Like everybody knows I struggle, but I don't shy away from it. Like I tell you, like, yeah, I probably didn't play my best football when I was here, but I was struggling. And that's why I want to continue to relay that to people. Yeah, like I understand how the fans felt, how everybody felt, but I'm not gonna shy away from saying that I struggled.
Up next, he had a loving family, millions of dollars, but Marcus Smith shares what was crushing him.
I wasn't thinking about my family. I wasn't thinking about my unborn child. I was so far gone to the point where I just wanted to end the pain.
Guys, welcome back to The Pulse. He had an NFL career, but today our guest, Marcus Smith, is sharing all the challenges that he faced in hopes that he may help someone out there watching. Let's get back to the conversation. I interviewed a former Sixer who shall remain nameless, and that person said that one of his friends from childhood actually paid somebody to attack him in a bar, pulled a knife on him, so he could fight the guy off and then have the player feel like they were indebted to him to the point that he would invest millions of dollars in their business. Alvin Williams, a former professional player from this area, came on The Pulse.
Yeah.
And he was talking about all of the people who just come out of the woodwork and it's like, you made it, we made it. Do you experience any of that kind of stuff?
It was like a person asking me for something like every day, like 7 days a week. So you got people coming out of the woodworks that want to be a part of what you work hard for, and wasn't like what they say, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym, right? Mostly like people, they weren't there with me, but they wanted to be a part of the success. And so being a young person and being 21, 22 years old, learning how to say no was like one of the hardest things for me also, because that affected the way I played too. Like I would have people calling me for something and I'm about to go out to practice. And this is during camp. And everybody knows, like, when you're in camp, like, this is a part where you're focusing strictly on your craft and what you're trying to do. I didn't have people that I could go to talk about this because everybody was coming to me. Like, I was the source. I didn't know how to deal with it, and I didn't talk to anybody about it. I was just dealing with it on my own, sit in my room, I'd just be crying, like, the whole time. Just trying to figure out, like, how do I get through this?
It got bad. And I'm not even talking about the football part of it, because that's the part that we all see.
Right.
But in hearing your story, your podcast, your experience, it got bad to the point where depression started overtaking you.
Yeah.
Anxiety started overtaking you. And you were strongly considering ending your life.
Yeah. Tried, you know what I'm saying, twice. And if I could be candid on this show, if you have things that have happened to you as a kid that you've seen, traumatizing, whatever it may be, and you haven't addressed it, right, you could just go and play and act like it never happened, right? It doesn't really hurt you as much. But as you get older, those same things are still with you when you was a child, right? Mm-hmm. And you bring on other stuff with you as you grow older, right? And that's what happened to me. Over time, I'm still depressed. Even when I leave the Eagles, I go to Seattle. I just signed a $2.7 million deal with the Seahawks. Like, my career is starting to go back up the way that I wanted to, but I haven't addressed none of these issues that I dealt with. So even before camp started, I'm having anxiety attacks. I can't sleep. I can't eat. Like, my chest feel like it's caving in. And so over time, like, you get restless, and I was just so tired of it. My wife was pregnant at the time. I woke up one morning, looked at her, and I was just like, gave her a kiss, and I got in my car and started to drive. And I was so far gone to the point where, like, I wanted to end my life so I could end the pain. I wasn't thinking about my family. I wasn't thinking about my unborn child. I was so far gone to the point where I just wanted to end the pain. As I'm going to Seattle, I'm going to the facility, I started to tip my car to the right because I'm going down this hill, and it's like rocks on the side, if you can imagine. And I started to tip my car to the right. And as I'm tipping my car to the right, my wife calls me. And so she calls me, and I jerk the car back just out of frustration because I'm just like, why are you calling me? Yeah, like, why are you calling me? So I'm talking to her, and I rush her off the phone. And I'm like, I'm listening to music. I'll talk to you later. Rush her off the phone. I start to do the same thing again. And my mother-in-law calls me, her mom. And so she calls me, jerk the car back out of frustration. And by the time I'm finished talking to her, I'm at the bottom of the hill. And I'm safe now. And when I got off the phone with her, that's when I realized that, I got a problem. And my mental health is more important. And I went into the facility, and I went and told Pete Carroll and my coach, like, I can't do this. Like, I need help.
Next on The Pulse, how professional athletes found comfort through honesty and unity.
You want guys who will understand you and just be in your corner when you actually are vulnerable enough. Last November, I went to a mental health institution for 30 days. I did therapy every day. And I was with like 12 other NFL retired guys. And it changed my life. And so I think for me, I do therapy at least once. Right now I do therapy at least once or twice every 2 weeks or something. A lot of us that were there together, we do Zooms. And we're on the call with each other, and we kind of can talk about our week and how everything's going. So that's kind of what helps me, because the people that I'm talking to, they've been through the same thing that I'm going through. And I would encourage anybody, especially players playing or retired, man, to look into going to a place like that, because it'll help you, bring yourself back to life. And you want guys who will understand you and just be in your corner when you actually are vulnerable enough.
There's a lot of people who don't get help. Black men, black male athletes, people who on the exterior look like I'm strong enough to handle everything.
Yeah.
Don't tell those stories. Why'd you decide to be so candid in sharing this information?
I'm not saying that I understood it at the time, but after I was vulnerable enough to say, or to be done with football right then, to protect my mental health, guys in the locker room, not gonna say any names, guys in the locker room came to me and was like, bro, I was dealing with that too. Like, I can't believe you had the balls to actually walk away. You know what I'm saying? Because some people, they have a family to take care of. They have a family to to make sure they can look after. So they just still don't say anything because they feel like, football is it. They don't have anything else. And so for me, I had to tell people what I went through in order to try to help someone else heal, because I know that I'm not the only athlete. I know that I'm not the only African American. I know that whether you white, black, indifferent, I know that we all go through some mental health barrier throughout our lives. I'm a bridge for people to get the help that they solely desire. So me saying some of the things that I say, it just raises a red flag in someone else's brain that's like, yo, I dealt with that last night. Maybe I need to go talk to somebody. God gave me a second chance. He gave me a second chance to do what I'm doing now. And so, but everybody may not get that second chance. So that's why I got to continue to push the message forward so people can get the help that they solely desire.
Were you at all surprised when you started sharing it that you weren't alone? That a lot of people felt that way.
People that you would not think, right? You got athletes who are doing really well that have big time issues, right? And that's when I knew it was serious, right? Because these guys are on the outside, they playing well every week and not realizing that they are dealing with some stuff that they wish that they feel like they could go get help with. And they don't want people to look at them as they're weak because they're on the outside, they're shown as these strong individuals. But what we have to realize is that that's where your strength lies, when you could be vulnerable about who you are and what you're dealing with.
If you're thinking about suicide or worried about a friend, the Lifeline Network is always available. Just call or text 988.
Philadelphia just recently went through something, and Ben Simmons. I don't know what Ben Simmons is dealing with. I haven't talked about that aspect of it, but he talked about his mental health. And some people were like, oh, if that's real, he needs to go get help.
Right.
Some people were like, man, he makes $33 million a year. Like, what are you upset about?
Right.
What do you're talking to players, you're helping players, you're putting your story out there publicly, but what do we as fans need to know as we sit in judgment of people that we ultimately don't know?
If a player is playing well or if he isn't playing well, right, it's not all about the game. It's not, right? Because like I said before, we are human, right? And we make mistakes and things happen. Philadelphia is a hard place to play in. Like if you're not, doing well, if you're not playing well, and if you don't have tough skin, or if you haven't built that tough skin, then it's kind of hard to deal with, because you want to please the fans, you want to please the coaches, and sometimes we forget that it's not really about pleasing the fans or the coaches. It's about pleasing ourselves, right, and just doing what we should do for ourselves to be the best player and person that we should be, and we kind of lose sight of that. I can feel what Ben Simmons was when he said, hey, man, I'm dealing with some mental health stuff. I think we should, instead of looking at his play and what he has done,
right,
look at the person and just look into him and say, all right, well, man, Ben Simmons, we hope you get better. We want you to get some help.
You're 21 when you were drafted.
Right.
Ben Simmons wasn't even. How many people watching this show right now have 19, 20, 21-year-old kids? I mean, they're not kids, you're adults, but and to sit back and go, like, remember the bad decisions, the challenges, the obstacles that my 19, 21-year-old had. It's a lot. Tell us about Circle of M.
Circle of M is first and foremost, a nonprofit. It's a foundation that I founded. And we unmask the feelings that cause anxiety and depression through I want to say podcast, but really a show. We bring different athletes on, and we talk to them about some of the mental health barriers that they went through. And I also do life coaching on the show too as well.
What about the media? I mean, it is part of the job to critique the player.
Right.
But a lot of times that I guess ignores the person.
If I was a part of media, if I was a part of doing something like that, to actually talk about the human side of the player and bring a different perspective, right? It's okay to have this part about the media, right? But you also need the other part too, right? The human and the life perspective. When it comes to media, we can get too much off of what they did as a player, but not really looking in the individual's heart and who they are.
The whole point of this show is we end with something called Use Your Voice for Good.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what you're doing in general, and I'm happy to say that to most of the people I talk to. But what does Use Your Voice for Good mean for you?
We look at success and we think it's instant. In reality, our true success is the pain, the journey, everything that we endure along the way in order to get to our purpose. Success is not a destination. And I want people to realize, like, hey, like, you're already successful where you are right now. You being able to do this part of it, the small things are very successful with where you are. It's always something that you want more, but you have to know that you're successful right now.
Guys, thank you so much for watching The Pulse today with Marcus Smith. And you may not know him as an NFL player, but I think that his story resonates with so many. His message clearly is that people may need help. And if you're one of those people, just get help. There are resources available. He's trying to help people out. We want to make sure you understand that you're not alone. And that's part of the reason why I was so inspired by his message today. I always leave you with a similar message, and today I think it resonates that much more. Whenever you can, please use your voice for good, and have a good one.